Good morning and happy holidays to all of you who are tuning in today. It is your boy, the Meat Man, and today we are going to be talking about the community update as well as some general BS that has been rearing its ugly head in the Monster Hunter community. Yes, this is a mostly critical video. No, I do not think that Wilds will be bad or that the updates are bad. Yes, I am happy that the Monster Hunter team is listening to us and acting fast to implement changes while maintaining a good amount of transparency with letting us know what they are looking into and what they will and won't be changing. There are already multiple videos that were made by the biggest Monster Hunter YouTubers on the entire community update, mostly highlighting the positive aspects. That being said, if you mostly want to see that, go check them out. I am mostly going to be highlighting some of the shortcomings that I saw with the community update, and also a small portion of the Monster Hunter community's problematic response. First off, a disclaimer. Feedback and honesty is important for positive change to happen. How in the world do you think these changes even happened in the first place? How do you think we got buffs for weapons and consideration for issues like monsters running away too often? Do you think they pulled all of these ideas out of their ass? Or was it the feedback surveys? As much as we may love the series and the developers who bring this series to life, it is important to remember that they are just mere human beings. They are not infallible, and they most certainly make mistakes. We have major players with a lot of say-so in the series that notoriously play with one weapon. You think they know the ins and outs of every weapon? If so, why do you think Monster Hunter has always had either problems with balance, mechanics, changes that hurt weapons for entire entries, even over-nerfs on weapons? Can you really look back and say that every mechanic introduced in these games is a hit or even a great idea? Can you honestly tell me that base world decoration farming and streamstone farming was a big hit? What about cool lobbies for RNG elemental weapons? Twice! Clutch Claw at launch before its multiple buffs. And even with the buffs, this one is still a head scratcher for a lot of fans. What about Rise Spearbirds? Apex monsters with no armors and weapons. What about Sunbreak's long drip-fed anomaly grind that was a bit gratuitous? And I'm not talking about the multipliers up to level 220, I'm talking how they rolled it out with every title update, and those are just new-gen examples. These guys can make mistakes, they can roll out half-baked ideas, they can make decisions that are controversial, and it is okay to call them out for it. This gives them a chance to make the game better. Don't you want the games to be the best that they can be? Let's get into the community update. Here is a lighter example of a head-scratching idea. Look what they did to Upswing's launch. What is the point? You are still getting knocked out of place, and the time is spent in animation commitment. You just lose the capability to get a slap in from the air. If the knockdown animation has a bunch of invincibility frames, maybe it will be slightly better overall since the upswing knockup could lead you to getting hit, but hey, we will just have to see. That one was just a primer. Now, time for the main ones. One thing I have not seen much talk about is the Hunting Horn Songs nerf. The purpose of these nerfs was for the idea that pocket horning would be too strong. Pocket horning being that you play songs and then you switch weapons so that you can reap the benefits without having to play Hunting Horn. Just as a refresher, here is the interpreted reasoning and nerfs.
It wasn't too bad in the OBT because being a limited slice of the gameplay, the melodies that were available for the Hunting Horn only actually went up to Attack Up S. But when you take that into the full game and you're going all the way up to Attack Up L, it just meant that the melody effects were too overpowered and it just became too much of an obvious meta choice to have the Hunting Horn as a backup weapon because of how powerful the parameters were whenever you were buffing not just yourself and but your whole party. So yeah, with a view to rebalancing that, what I've actually done is the melody effects when you strengthen yourself, when you buff yourself, have actually been increased, been made more powerful. But conversely, the effect on others has been decreased to rebalance its focus. The other thing that has changed is that when you change back from the Hunting Horn to the other weapon that you have with you, that's the amount of time that the melody effect was being applied and for an extended amount of time. That skill has been adjusted so that when you change back to your other weapon, it's not going to hang around for as long whenever you've got the buff applied to other players. So
here is my problem with this. If the pocket horns would be so strong, and yes, it would be extremely strong, why not just make the buffs wear off when you switch weapons? This easily fixes the problem. Instead, we not only shorten the amount of time the buffs stay on after switching, but we also punish the full-on hunting horn mains that will not be switching by making their buffs not affect the teammates as well as it normally would. One of the great pleasures of hunting horn players across the series was the absolutely wonderful buffs that they would be able to bestow upon their teammates. With this change, we are needlessly punishing hunting horn players, and the payoff for weapon swapping is mitigated so much that it is not likely that people will pocket horn anyways. It is just a needlessly complicated solution that appears to only be half-baked on paper. We will have to see just how much it really does affect the horn songs in the actual game, but unless they go light on either of the nerfs, I do not see it being a very good change. It also seems like a lot of unnecessary work now that they will have to tweak literally every song in the game and potentially add more to each description for every song. Moving on, let's talk about the insect glaive. Many players, myself included, hate the current control scheme. They addressed this issue with the control scheme and basically said that they will not be changing the layout after much discussion for the sake of adding a form of rewarding depth. Here is the clip with the actual phrasing.
One thing I wanted to cover additionally was that some players said that the controls for charging up the descending thrust were a little bit too difficult, or they felt tricky to operate in the heat of the hunt. I took that feedback on board, and I tried it out in the game myself, and I did somewhat agree that it could be tricky to pull that off right in the middle of things, but we always have to weigh up when we're going to make these kind of modifications to a weapon what the implications are for its playstyle as a whole. We have to balance the idea of changing that with how it might play the way it is. So after many discussions with the team, I actually decided to keep this one the way it is. I think that it is one of the trickier things to pull off, but it's sort of a bit of a rewarding bit of depth to the gameplay of the insect glaive. If you can get used to that and learn when to use the charge, you can really deepen your play style. So that's something that we're not adjusting this time, although we did hear your voices on that.
Now let's talk about how this is a pretty BS answer. This very PR-oriented answer does not actually show us anything. People playing with mouse and keyboard do not have to deal with this problem, so they miss the rewarding depth, not to mention people with controllers with paddles. Also, another issue I have with this is the fact that this seems to be the only weapon and input made uncomfortably obtuse on purpose for the sake of depth. Monster Hunter is not Street Fighter, where a part of your skill expression is showcased via difficult combo inputs. In fact, the friction points in Monster Hunter combat are being eroded over time more and more in the new generation Monster Hunters. In fact, let's compare the other classical charging weapons, since the point of contention is on the front-facing button charging mechanic. Greatsword, whose depth and reward was classically committing to a stationary direction to smash the monster with the hardest hitting combo in the game, is now able to rotate while charging, and it is very easy to do since you can use the left stick to rotate. Hammer, the mobile charging weapon, used to have to lose its charge level when you rolled, but now we have Charge Step that is also activated with intuitive button inputs, and it not only grants you distance and iframes, but it lets you keep your charge. Monster Hunter seemingly has been more about giving you a lot of tools that are accessible and seeing if you can execute with them consistently. I am not buying this PR-coded excuse. And this leads me into this other problem I have that has nothing to do with the Monster Hunter team. What is with this weird white knighting for the billion-dollar corporation? What is this weird vitriol towards random weapon users in the community that express legitimate criticism and concern? I leave a lighthearted meme on Reddit. Yes, Reddit, I know, I should have known. But these people came out of the woodwork to defend the honor of the big boys on the Monster Hunter team. And then plenty of IG users were trying to prove something as well. We have a bunch of pro gamers proving their superiority by not having problems with the control scheme. Oh, you didn't mind it? Great. Awesome. That means you are not part of the conversation then, huh? I cannot think of many reasons for people downplaying these controller scheme frustrations other than ego or white knighting for the devs. You also have people with the battered gamer mindset where if you get something good, it automatically overshadows the bad. Hey, it doesn't. People are glazing the insect glaive buffs. But what did they give the insect glaive that was not already present in the previous games? The aerial bounce has been present since World. The power boosts after subsequent aerial strikes was added in Rise. The triple buff bonuses have been in every game insect glaive has been in besides World. The only thing that isn't just something given back after being taken away is the added offset attack properties where the hyper armor frames are in Descending Slash, which, by the way, merely puts the weapon in line with every other weapon besides Light Bowgun, since Insect Glaive and Light Bowgun were the only weapons in the game that lacked an offset attack or a counter to begin with. Don't get me wrong, I am as happy to eat the crumbs from every other weapon's table as the next guy, but let's not pretend the devs are propping IG up on a pedestal that excludes it from criticism. But as for you incendiary community members, we are on the same team. I want Monster Hunter to be good. I like the developers too. These guys are not just infants that are going to shy away from making the game they want the best they want just because they got some critical feedback. They are not going to punish the player base for honest feedback, nor do they appear so egotistical that they expect to be worshipped for rectifying mistakes and listening to the player base. These guys are not your friends. They may be nice and cool, but at the end of the day, they create a product and we buy it. These are people we do business with. Let them do business. Don't try to crush down the concerns of people that love the series alongside you. We all love Monster Hunter, and if you made it this far, I love you. Merry Christmas. I'm pretty sick, so if I sounded kind of weird this video, I apologize. Please consider liking and subscribing. I've got more stuff coming at you later. Stay meaty, my friends.
I've got dinner ready. Let him cook.